We
Ah,
have
there it
the
is.
we have the reveal as usual, you know.
There you are. There you are. She reveals herself.
Oh, fell back down.
The veil is lifted. The veil has been lifted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, I had made it so good here now, and now you're falling down. There we go.
Okay.
All good.
We're here. We're here. You always keep that over
Yeah,
over your
yeah.
because you said about the hackers. I think last time you said something about hackers or something.
Yeah, it's hackers, and also, you know, they have this like 7, 8G, which they can like, they do like through the camera, they catch radio waves that are going from your pineal gland actually, and then they do different imprints of energy, like mind control programs. So it all goes through your pineal gland, and your camera is fully like a receptor for that, for sending those signals and information. So it's for that reason as well, not just for like spying. They actually use different kinds of mind. This is why sometimes you think of something and then it comes up on your Google search. You think of, I want to go on holiday to that place, but you actually haven't spoken it out, but your Google is showing it to you because you have done imprint with your mind, because everything is energetically like connected. So if you're thinking it, it's already something receiving that information, and that's why it shows up on your Google search.
Whoa. Okay, this goes beyond.
Yeah,
This goes this goes beyond. This is deep.
it is very deep. Yeah.
This is deep. When did you start? I mean, when did you discover this? When did you uncover this?
Um, I mean, to the extent where it goes into frequency waves, that is just a couple years back. But already when I was young, I was together with a hacker, and he could do a lot of things hacking wise through people's cameras. So already, like when I was really young, I became aware of how much you can actually influence another person if you have access to the camera on their computer or on their phone.
Whoa. Okay, so Natalie, so you actually had a an ex-partner that was a hacker. You had a hacker ex-partner,
Yeah,
and he knew all about this.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
okay, so for people who aren't really in the know, like what did he illuminate for you that kind of changed your whole way of thinking when it comes to technology? Like what were some of the things that maybe, you know, the average person on the street, the common person just kind of stuck looking at their phone all day doesn't actually realize what's happening?
Like everything is basically about coding. Like what we see in front of us as the end product of a app or a program, there's so much zeros and ones and numbers through these that are collecting data and information, and you are just like willingly giving it away. But there is so much value of all of the ones and zeros into the programming that we as normal people might not be aware of, and then we agree to all of these conditions to download Instagram, to download TikTok and whatever, and in that agreement we are agreeing to basically being supervised and have full access to our life with with those conditions that very few people read. All of those little, you know, it always asks you, do you want to consent to this? But you don't want to read through like 150 pages of what actual that information is. And there they are openly telling you that they will sell your ones and zeros. For you it's just ones and zeros, but for them it's very important zeros and ones that they can actually use for their own beneficial gain.
Okay, so this is very valuable information. So just to be on these platforms, you know, like you said, you know, hardly anybody reads the terms and conditions, the policies, and you know, the pages and pages of terms and conditions
Yeah,
for, you know, just they just press the button, they just click through, they just scroll up to the bottom, and then they consent. And, you know, when we're selling all of this stuff that we don't even know that we're selling, and we're telling this information we don't even know that we're telling. And you know, when you talked about ones and zeros as well, Natalie, you give me a glimpse of the Matrix. You've seen the Matrix?
Yeah, of course.
So, you know,
Mm,
in the Matrix, the operators, you know, the
mm,
operators in the ships, like the Nebuchadnezzar and these different ships in Zion, they had these operators that they could see the program, like they could see the ones and zeros, they could see
mm.
the code, they could see the stream of code and information in the world, like in the simulation,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know? So
Exactly.
that was,
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
We actually had, I can't remember their name. It was two men. They won the Nobel Prize. They actually, with some kind of technology, they took a picture at the end of the universe, and it was actually like a wall, and it had like binary code on it, and they actually won the Nobel Prize for this. So this is like we are in a simulation. There's already like fully proven that we are actually in a computer system, because at the end of the universe there's a binary code, which means that we are in a simulation. It's already proven. It's just not making mainstream news because they don't want you to know about it. But that's already like a proven fact.
Whoa. So this is the Truman Show.
It is. It is.
Oh my
It's like a combination: Truman Show, Matrix, and The Simpsons.
oh my God. Okay, so just for people who've never even heard about this before, where can they go to find this Nobel Prize? Like, where can they go to find this code at the edge of the universe that they
I,
captured?
I
What should they
actually
type
don't know. Maybe I can like put a link in the comments later on, and I need to find it because here in the top of my head
in? Yeah,
I don't have it.
yeah. What did that I mean do for you? Like having that kind of confirmation to see the end of like the edge of the universe and to see that this is a simulation. With that confirmation, what did it do for you when you were like, oh yeah, of course, you know?
I think it's just like a reassuring feeling, because even if you know many of the things and you try to really go deep into the fabric of reality and try to understand everything, there's a very thin line between like sanity and insanity. But
Right.
when you get confirmations like that, you're like, okay, yeah, no, I'm not crazy. You know?
Not crazy.
I feel it kind of like it's good to have those confirmations sometimes. And like to gain your spiritual senses, you have to lose your human mind. Otherwise, it doesn't really work. So you have to lose your human mind to gain your spiritual senses.
Oh,
So it's a part of it. But there is a very thin line between sanity and insanity.
oh my God. This is we're already diving. You know, we're already diving so deep, Natalie. Every time we just dive headfirst into the deep end. We just go in there. So you know, I love what you said about just and I agree, you know, sometimes it's like we have to lose our mind to come back to our senses, you know?
Mm,
And within this matrix, within this simulation, you know, what allows you to continue? I mean, we talked before about things like addiction and you know just external affliction and these habitual addictions that we get wrapped up in and sometimes people get so wrapped up in it that you know their purpose for life, their fulfillment for life, their reason for life goes away and they don't want to be here anymore.
mm.
But you know, for you to still participate in the matrix, knowing that it is a simulation, you know, you kind of you took the red pill, you didn't take the blue pill, you took the red pill, but you're still kind of inside the simulation, kind of working with it. How do you kind of balance that?
I mean, there is, we always like, oh, we want to break free from the matrix, but we are like a part of the matrix. It is the full matrix that we need to like dismantle, because there is a real one, and that is the beautiful one, the one that's built from love. But so far, we live in a distorted matrix that is basically built on top of the real matrix.
Mm,
So sooner or later, the false matrix will fall, and in that fall, we will rise into a new evolved species of humans. And I think that's what I like making me do this every day, because we are on like the precipice of in our evolution to reach a new being of as a human, and we are very, very close to that. And I think it's very important for people to understand that there is further human possibilities for us that we have not yet been shown, because they gave us their wrong manual. We are in this video game and they gave us a manual that completely contradicts the evolution of the human species. Like, we need food. No, we don't need food. You know, just there, like the biggest weapon that they use against us is the food. We are beings of light. We need more light. We don't need food. You know, already there, it's the most biggest component if we want to evolve and reach our fullest capacity as human beings. We have tremendous force. We have tremendous power that we think is something far-fetched and like supernatural, when it is our most purest form. And it's that purest form that we have to step into and remember and embody that purest form, and like that we will do incredible things, and evolutionary we will rise into a completely new dimension.
Absolutely, Natalie. I agree, you know, and I love that you see the future in that way. I love that you see, you know, the light at the end of the tunnel. I love that you see people broadening their horizons, expanding the scope of their vision. And I love that it just feels like a mission. You know, it feels like you're on this mission. It's like you're here for the awakening. You're here for the enlightenment. You're
Mm.
here to like help people break free from their own mentality to really reshape and change their reality. And is that one of the reasons why, you know, when we're talking about participation within the matrix vibration, that you participate on these platforms, putting out the positive message on platforms like this, where you do have to, you know, scroll through the terms of conditions and the policies and click consent, that you still consent to do this because you're here for something higher. Is that it? Or what would you say is
Yeah,
your reason?
yeah, yeah, definitely. Like, I remember, like, I signed up for this. I remember I was like, okay, let's do this. I remember sitting there with my spirit team signing my soul contract. Like, I remember it. So I know that this is what I'm here to do. Like, I mean, sometimes I wake up and I'm like, fuck this mission. I don't want to do this anymore. It happens a lot, especially with all the backlash that I get. It's really difficult for me to spread awareness. They make it very, very difficult. But I feel like I need, like, it's my mission. It's like encoded in me. It's like I have received a code and it's in me. So whether I like it or not, I'm doing it.
Wow. Yeah, you remind me of one of my just one of my most impactful and influential mentors. You know, he said the same thing, Natalie. He's like as
Mm.
long as I'm here, you know, as long as I'm above ground, you know, I got to speak the truth. I got to speak this message because it's in me, not on me, you know.
Yeah.
He said, it's not
Yeah.
on me, it's in me. You know, it's
Mm.
since it's in me, you know, yeah, like I gotta spread it, you know. I don't regret it. I can't forget it. I gotta spread it, you know. People
Mm.
gotta get it. So, you know, thank you for your just being on purpose, and thank you for being in service in this way, because you know the message that you're putting out as well, you know, I receive backlash a lot for things that I put out. Same as the message that you talked about just on, you know, not eating and or not needing, you
Mm.
know, not needing to be constantly feeding. You know, I get backlash about that. Like, you know, you're crazy. What do you mean? You know, you're gonna kill you. You're gonna die. And people are telling me all sorts of stuff.
Mm.
Like, you know, we'll see. You know, we'll see like how long you last and all this stuff. And I'm like, do
Mm.
you really think we're that limited? Like, do you really think
Mm.
we're that like that level of limitation vibration
Mm,
that you really feel like we are not capable. So, Natalie, when you use these words, the human capacity
mm.
and the human capability and the boundless capability that we have as human beings and even as a species, could you just say one or two things that you speak about when it comes to the capabilities that we are unaware of, that seem supernatural? What are some of those capabilities?
Like they're called siddhas when you talk in Sanskrit form, and there's like hundreds of different of siddhas that you can achieve. Like the most basic ones are like telekinesis,
Hmm.
telepathy, levitation, flying with the speed of light. You can make yourself into as small as an atom, big as a mountain, and these are so hard for people to grasp
Mhm.
because of the programming that we have received. We have limited our mind with such limited programming. So when I speak about these things, it's like absolute madness. But when we look at Marvel, that is reality. That is pure reality. And there is many people that have already fully activated themselves and are doing missions here on Earth with their fullest capacity. And they are sometimes they can be a tsunami coming, and then they manage to stop the tsunami through manipulating the energies with the elements. So there is many people that have already activated these gifts within them, but it is not known to the public because they do not want this. There's still the light and dark forces. Even if the light has already won, the darkness is still holding on with like an iron fist, and it's all about you not awakening your kundalini energy, because it's when you awaken your kundalini energy that you can start harnessing in more energy, and you will activate all of these special abilities that are achievable for everyone.
Mhm. Yes. And I can only imagine that, beings of this nature that you speak of, Natalie, these beings of light that, have transcended in their own way and been
Mm,
able to, achieve these feats that to so many people seem impossible, just beyond beyond belief, beyond the realm of their reality, beyond their own imagination. I can only imagine that they wouldn't want to be in the public. They wouldn't want to be in the spotlight. They wouldn't want to
mm,
be in the limelight, not only just because of the ridicule or the criticism or the judgment that they might receive from people who don't have the understanding and the awareness, but
mm,
also maybe even because they have nothing to prove to
mm.
other people. Like maybe you could speak to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's not just about not wanting to show yourself. The government will eliminate you. I will put it like straightforward. Like, if you reveal certain things, you get eliminated. It's as simple as that. When you activate certain things, because everything is interconnected. So when you rise your vibration or you do a really intense meditation, you will send out certain signals, and the CIA will know what you're doing straight away, straight away.
Oh, okay. Now,
And many of
perhaps
these
you can.
documents from CIA have recently gone declassified. So astral projection, telekinesis, moving through walls, this is already proven that it's fully possible to do that, and they have declassified these files not that long ago. So it is not something that, again, is not real. It is a very real thing. And when you start doing these things, they will make sure that you don't do these things, basically. It makes it
Okay.
very difficult for you to continue when you have started. Either they will ask you to work for them.
Hmm.
If you do not agree to that, then they will start hunting you down.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah, this is it's creepy. There's creepy vibes because I remember hearing about those declassified documents and different documents where yeah, the CIA was already testing and already working out things like remote viewing and people
Mm,
going into places just with the mind and getting information and clandestine missions and espionage, things like we see on TV, but they're doing it with the mind, and they're able to find, you know, documents and different things that, you know, they don't have to find it physically, they find it metaphysically,
mm,
you know, or psychically. And
mm.
I remember, you know, there's these kids today, and I'm sure you've seen them in different channels, Natalie, but the youth, there's teenagers today that are, they're really waking up in a whole, like, just an amazing way. They're doing, like you said, I love how you said the basic siddhas or the basic city
Mm.
powers are like telekinesis and telepathy. You said moving things with your mind, these are the basics. This is just
Yeah,
basic, you said. And, you know, this is like training wheels for what's to come. So I've seen these videos of these kids, these teenagers, and there's these people that, you know, they don't want to show their face, but they just have their hand, you know,
mm.
like moving these objects, and you see them practicing, you know, whether it just be like a tin foil or some aluminum foil, and then they gradually they go to a cup, and then gradually they
Mm.
go to a bottle, and gradually they go to a glass, and gradually they're moving these bigger and bigger objects. And then some of them they're doing like aerokinesis, and the weather is moving with them
Yeah,
and grooving with them, and like hydrokinesis, they're moving there's water that's rippling out, you know, because of their vibration, they're rippling waves on the water. And then other ones, you know, they're doing like pyrokinesis, and they can put out a candle or put out a
mm,
match or a flame
mm.
with their mind. They don't even have to blow it, they just put it out just with their mind, and you can watch the flame slowly dim and go out, and you're like, oh my god, he just did that, you
Yeah,
know. And then they're making things move, and they show there's no ceiling fan on, there's nothing to blowing in the background, like this is purely all their mind. And
mm,
I reached out, you know, to some of them because I was really curious. I've always been curious, and some of them, I understand now why they were very reluctant, you know, to reveal any information. They didn't really want to like go further. They didn't want to really talk about how they were doing it or how they, you know, started doing it. They just
mm,
want you to know it's possible, but they don't want to reveal themselves, you know. So I can understand. Yeah.
mm. Yeah, no, it is a very controlled topic. So of course, like you don't want that attention on you, and it's like basically a matter of life and death when it really comes down to it. So of course, people want to remain discreet about that. Like
Okay.
I talk about it freely because the reason humanity has not evolved more, because we are so behind, is because of gatekeeping. There are many enlightened masters that are gatekeeping certain information which is absolutely detrimental for the human evolution. We are so close to something very important, and so few people are aware of what is going on. So there's actually not a lot, this is not about fear, but there's not a lot of time to get on the right path for humanity,
Wow.
because we have not been given an understanding of what is actually going on. And I work with certain higher forces that tell me to tell certain information. So I just go off what they tell me to come out with, and then I will just deal with the consequences of it. And so far it's been very, very harsh consequences, but I'm here to do this. So yeah.
Okay. I commend your courage, you know, like I commend your bravery to just, you know, put out these things, and you're listening to your guides and your own intuition. And, you know, Natalie, when you're talking about gatekeeping, it reminds me of a book I once read by Mantak Chia. You know Mantak Chia?
Hmm.
Okay, Mantak Chia, he, you know, for those who don't know, he talks a lot about, you know, sexual energy, you know, like healing love through the Tao, like these Taoism practices where, you know, you might go through periods of either celibacy or just really, you know, like tantra, or just, you know, harnessing your sexual energy, harnessing that
Mm.
organ, and, you know, harnessing the life force. And in the beginning chapters of one of those books where he talks about all this, he said that, like, you know, thousands of years ago, or just, you know, hundreds centuries ago, that these were just, that they were gatekeepers, you know, like these were practices that were only for the emperor or only for the prince or the king, or people behind closed doors knew about harnessing your sexual energy. But, you know, the regular villagers and civilians and pedestrians, like the regular people, they had no idea, you know, they had no idea. So it was like there's been gatekeeping for centuries on that front, it seems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, if we look at society, everything is constructed in a way to deplete you of your sexual energy. So everything that you basically do in our society is depleting you from actually saving your energy and reaching higher states of consciousness with that. And this is why they are gatekeeping it, because they want humanity to stay on a certain level of consciousness and not be aware of their full potential and capacity.
Okay. So, you know, for you, Natalie, personally, in your journey, when it came and when it comes to developing and to just continuing towards your full capacity, you know, as a being, what were some of your like incremental developments where you opened up even more, you opened your consciousness, your state of awareness even more, and it got you on a track where you said, okay, this is my purpose. Like, I don't need to focus on this, or this. All I need to do is focus on this. Like, what was one of those moments for you where you realized just how far you can go?
It's all about meditation. Like it all comes down to meditation. I started meditating, and then from there I was just like, this is what I need to do. Everything unlocks if we just sit and meditate. It's all about meditation. If you sit long enough, you will retain all of your siddhas. Yes, you have to do like spiritual practices with that, but just meditation is a really simple start. And many people, I think, they focus too much. Oh, I need to do this breath work. I need to go do this yoga. I need to go on this retreat. They do so many things in the hope of reaching higher states of consciousness. But then all they have to do is really sit in nature, and everything will unfold naturally, I would say. So for me, it's just been like sit and meditate as much as possible.
As much as possible. Okay, here we go. So I love this. I love this topic. So Blaise Pascal is a famous mathematician and philosopher. And Blaise Pascal, he said something that I feel like, oh man, you know, ever since I heard it, it's been a recurring theme every single year of my life, not just for myself, but for the way that I see and the way that I'm able to view things, you know, just observing. Blaise Pascal, he said that all of humanity's problems stem from our inability to sit by ourselves in a room alone. Just,
Mm.
just to sit. Just all of humanity's problems stem from that one thing. He said our inability to sit by ourselves in a room alone. And I find it interesting, Natalie, that he didn't say, you know, like a few of humanity's problems. He didn't
Mm.
say like some of humanity's problems. He said all of them.
All of them, yeah.
All of them, just for what you described right there. Like, just sit and just
Mm.
be, and just be, just sit.
Mm.
So can you talk about that right there? Like, what started to develop when you just sat there? Because for most people, they see that as very unproductive, very unconstructive, and you know, they're in the quick go go go, do, like, you know, they're all in that hustle and bustle. But when you're just like, no, just sit there, you know? Can you
Mm.
talk about that?
Like everything that manifests in our 3D reality starts in the spiritual realm. So when you sit and meditate, you are actually creating the new next moment. So the more you sit and become aligned with your higher self, the more aligned the future self of you will be.
Mm.
That's what. So the more still you are in this dimension, the more you are working in the spiritual realm. And the more spiritual work you do, the more it will manifest in the 3D reality. So the less you actually do in the 3D reality, the less you're running around, the more you are actually doing in the spiritual world, which will mean that you will actually do more here when you have aligned with yourself. So people are doing all these things, but they are not aligning themselves with the higher self. If you are not aligned with your higher self, you cannot create a peaceful coexistence for yourself. It all starts with aligning with yourself, sitting in meditation. It's how you connect to your soul. It's how you connect to the universe. It's like you are asked, you don't might not know what the next step is for your life. Sit and meditate. Sooner or later you will know. Everything is within you. We say this, or everything is within you, and we might think, okay, yeah, but everything is actually inside of you. Like all the knowledge and wisdom you already have. It's just that you are so preoccupied with everything that is happening around you, and you want to create, you want to do this, you want to make money. Oh, I need to do that, I need to do that. Everything that you have been taught, again, is wrong. We have to sit with ourselves and quiet down our mind and make our consciousness rest, because when we are sleeping, our consciousness is not sleeping, because we leave our body and we go away to different levels of the astral plane, which means that your consciousness is actually not sleeping, not resting. So the only time your consciousness can actually relax, recuperate, and align is if you meditate. So that's when you can really charge your battery. If you do not meditate, you are never really charging your battery. I hear many people say that if you live in a state of complete awareness and mindfulness at all time, you do not need to meditate. Yes, because you are still in a meditative state, but still to sit down, find your breath, check in with yourself. That, even if you're like a guru, like you still need to check in with yourself. And I hear the other day, I heard a healer that advised someone to, oh yeah, you don't need to meditate, you just have to live in a state of awareness. But to say that to someone that is still living a normal life in the 3D reality, that all you have to do is live mindfully and never meditate, it's like the worst advice you could possibly give to someone, because we have to check in with ourselves, and we do that in meditation. Meditation takes away all of our problems. It literally does. It
Wow.
literally does.
Oh my gosh. Okay, this I'm starting to get chills because you're reminding me of so many things. There's so many layers, so many things to unpack. Oh my gosh. So one of the things is there's a lady I recall named Miriam, and she's on the pranic path as well, pranic living path. And she said that, for people who say that, you know, meditation, it like, it takes time, for people who say they don't have time to meditate, she said, actually, it's a silly thing to say because meditation actually saves you time in the long run.
Mm,
Like you save time, like you gain time when you meditate. You're actually saving time. You're not losing time. You're like saving yourself a lot of trouble in the long run. It's like you're slowing down to speed up. Like things speed up when you slow down. And she was like,
exactly.
it saves you so much more frustration, more complication, more energy. Like it saves you all the things that are in your way. It's like removing the blocks, the blockages, you know? So it's like we're shackled, and we have weights that are tied down, and then all we have to do is just, wait, and then the weights will just dissolve. We just have to
Mm,
sit. And the more that we sit, the more that we get, you know? So this is such a paradox. It flips everything on its head for the modern person in society that is in the hustle culture, is in the bustle culture of go, get it. I have to get it now. Time is money. Time is money. And
mm.
one of my friends, shout out to Sam, years ago, you know, he was always talking to me, Natalie, about the I am presence. He would work with the I am presence, and commune with these ascended masters like Saint Germain, and, you know, and the
Mm.
Violet Flame and Saint Germain. And so, you know, he was working with these energies, the state of I am. And he told me that one day when he was really in materialism, when he was really in society working, he was trying to find a job. Like he was looking for this construction job and that job, and he was looking on Craigslist and all sorts of stuff, and he could not find any ways to make money. He needed to make money. And he said this, Natalie, he said, you know what? He said he just sat down in meditation for like a day, and he said that money just came to him. He said
Mm-hmm.
like a check came to him, somebody sent him money, or some money that was supposed to come to him like months ago, all of a sudden just came and hit his bank account, and it was just started like, what? And it just blew his mind in that moment, and he knew, okay, you know what? I don't have to do this. I could just do this.
Mm.
Oh, so when it comes to that wavelength, that abundance, prosperity, and, you know, what we consider wealth, that wavelength, you're saying all of that is solved as well just by sitting.
Yeah, absolutely. You become like a magnet there, because when you sit and meditate, the more you're rising your vibration. So the higher your vibration goes, the more good things that are also vibrating on that same frequency will come to you. So you really don't need to do anything. You just have to sit and raise your vibration, and sooner or later, all of your wishes and dreams will come to you. Like, of course, you have to take care of your body, you have to work out. If you take care of your temple and you meditate, everything will come to you.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
it's as easy as that.
And you say
Because
meditation even over sleep, you said even over sleep and relaxation, you still say we should focus on meditation.
like if you meditate, you don't really need sleep.
Mm.
That's another thing as well. Like we are still so weak because we have been sprayed. We're not breathing the right air. We are not drinking the right water. Even if we are taking care of ourselves, we're barely eating any food. There's so much pollution in the air, and it has been going on for thousands of years. So it's in basic. We have microplastics, you know, all in our body. Like many newborn babies have microplastic.
Mm.
There's microplastic in the placenta. So we are so polluted. But if we will reach full detoxification, we will become so incredibly pure that we will just, you know, attract everything.
Right. Wow, this is profound. You know, I remember being in a monastery. I was at a meditation center called the Barwa, and this was back in 2019. So I was at the Barwa, and it was Burmese. They were Burmese monks and nuns from Myanmar, and so most of them only spoke Burmese. I was one of the only English speakers there, and I was learning things from them like meditation and all sorts of different ways to, like, you know, work with myself and just really just sit with myself and get with myself as you're speaking. And their chief monk, Sayadaw, because this was called the Mindfulness and Detachment Center. You know, the chief monk, I remember his picture up on the wall. You know, you see his shaved head, and you see him, and and it just has the words underneath like free from desire, you know? And I remember meeting Sayadaw, and it was awesome because he was just this guy, like, he wasn't really big, he wasn't really muscular at all, but he wasn't weak, you know?
Mm.
Like he was kind of just, you know, just a slender guy, but he had a liquid diet. He was already back in 2019. He had already gone 2 years without solid food. So everything
Mm.
he had, everything he consumed was liquefied. And this was the first time I ever heard of that being possible. And the legend was around the way, around the monastery, no one ever saw him lie down.
Mm.
Like no one ever saw him in the prone position. He was never in the prone position. His spine, his spine was always aligned. Like his spine was always erect. That like you said, the Kundalini energy, like that channel of energy. His
Mm.
his sleep was meditation.
Mm.
And so
Mm.
while everyone else was kind of like in the prone position, he was just like this. You could see him behind the screen. He would just be up all night. And I remember nobody could outpace him. I mean, they weren't trying to race him, but they
Yeah.
couldn't outpace him when it came to like walking,
Mm.
like long distance, like Gandhi, like miles and miles and miles, like Gandhi. He could walk for miles and miles, and he wasn't eating any solids. He was just liquid, and he was just sleep was meditation. So I was like, there are levels. There are levels to this, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, like the human body is like a battery, and the more connected you are to above as below, you become like a conductor, and you receive all of the energy and nutrients in your body through energy, through light, and you sustain yourself with the force that already exists. You just have to be receptive to be able to take in that force and to live off that force. If your body is full of toxins, heavy metal, you will not be able to receive the energy that can actually keep you sustained without food, water, or sleep.
Okay. Okay, so this is twofold. There's two sides to this coin. Like
Yeah,
on one hand, we have the practice of meditation, but on the other hand, you have to have the dissipation of all the, the complication inside from the heavy metals, all the that has to detox as well.
yeah, of course. Like I mentioned in our last live, when I first started this, I went through intense amount of purging, yeah, due to drug addiction as well. But it was mostly because through the meditation, I was awakening the Kundalini, and when the Kundalini starts rising, it will push out everything, all the traumas, all illness, all sickness,
Mm.
all fear, everything she will just burn through everything. Shakti will just rise and burn everything. And because everything that's happening internally is also happening in our external environment. So at the same time as this inner conjunction is happening, your outside world will most likely also be a complete mess. Like all of your relationships will break down, you will lose your job because you are rising to a higher level, and it's burning away this level that you are now on. So before you can actually find peace, you will have to go through destruction, and that is the force of the Kundalini. This is why we say it's dangerous to practice certain Kundalini breath work exercises if you have not opened your chakras, because there's a high chance of psychosis, that a person cannot actually take in of what is happening because it goes so incredibly fast. And this is why they say Kundalini is the most potent form of yoga, because it will absolutely destroy you, it will destroy your ego, and it will also destroy your outside world because of the shifts that are internally happening inwards as outside as well.
Whoa. Okay. So can you describe, if you may, if that ever happened to you? Has anything like that on that level happened to you where you understood like internally just the potential and even the danger when someone is not aware of where they can go with this flow, this energy flow?
Yeah, it can be very dangerous. Like for me, I at the time when this happened to me, I was getting help from a healer, which I thought wanted to help me, but he actually like guided me in the completely wrong way and was saying really bad things to someone that is going through a Kundalini awakening. And he was actually using my energy for his own benefit and gain. So there is many gurus out there. I will not do names, but some of them are like really liked. And let's just say that the work that they do behind closed doors is very, very, very unethical.
Mm.
And they use many people that go through these intense spiritual awakenings because you're just waking up to everything that goes on. So your mind is so, you're so ungrounded in that moment. And if you don't have someone that wants to actually help you and wants to instead use you, it can go very, very wrong. And I see many people that go to gurus and they idolize these masters, and then the masters actually use these people. So when people go through Kundalini awakenings, there are so many things that can go wrong, because it's such a delicate process, and it can be incredibly violent. It is very violent. It doesn't have to be. Some people have a gradual one, and it's more easier to integrate the energies. But if you have like a massive awakening and you don't know what is actually going on, it can be incredibly scary, because depending on the level of awakening, but we say that you get illuminated to the extent that you see through all of the dimensions, because here in this dimension, our eyes only see, I think it's like 0.3 something on the light spectrum, which means that what our eyes actually see of the totality is so incredibly small, which means that they are higher realms of existence, higher dimensions here and now around us, but our eyes don't have the right attunement to be able to see these things. But many times when you have a Kundalini full activation, you see everything. You know, like you see demons, you see your own shadow, you see different archons, like you see angels, you see everything. And if you do not actually know what the fuck is going on, you will very easily fall into a psychosis. So this is why it's important to have someone that can be like, okay, we have these beings, we have these other beings here, but you just have to have no fear, because those beings can almost always only show themselves if you hold a lot of fear in your body, because they feed off the fear. So yeah, it's very crucial to have someone that can actually guide you when you're going through this. This is the time where many people get put in mental institutions and get labeled schizophrenia because, oh, I see this being, I see this and this. No, you're not schizophrenic, you are having a spiritual awakening. And then those people get put on heavy medication, which is the absolutely worst and the most detrimental thing that you can do to someone that is going through a spiritual awakening. So everything in our society is backwards, especially when it comes to treating people with spiritual awakenings as well. I mean, our most enlightened masters are all in mental institutions, let me tell you. There we can find the most brilliant people.
Wow, this is a tremendous, just a testimony and statement that you're making, because I resonate deeply that there are so many people that I've met, even just out on the street, complete strangers, just out there, just living in nature, choosing, through whatever circumstances, whatever happened, that they're just out there. And I've heard some of the most amazing things and amazing stories from people who other people disregarded and just wouldn't even stop to talk to, or wouldn't even stop to give a dollar. I've just met these people, and they were just grateful that somebody listened, that somebody was just gave them the time of day, just gave them a listening ear. And they've given me some of the most greatest life lessons of myself, for me, for the way that I live my life. So when you mentioned, Natalie, that, the Kundalini awakening can be violent for people, was it violent for you, or it wasn't violent for you the first time, if you can recall the first time you had that surge of energy?
It was very violent. It
Okay.
was. And I didn't have anyone to guide me. I only had people that wanted to deceive me around me. So it was very, a very dark situation. But because that as a child, I could see things. So I already knew that there is different layers of existence. There is different beings. So I could kind of be like, okay, you are seeing that, it's okay. And I also knew I shouldn't tell certain people what I was seeing, because I knew they would like lock me inside. So I kind of just like connected with my guides and went with the information they were giving me, which was hard at that time as well, because I had so many evil influences that wanted to distort my perceptions. It was kind of hard for me to rely on the inner voice that I had. But I didn't really have a choice then to just trust that, knowing that, okay, you're not crazy, you just have to keep on working, keep doing your meditations, and everything will be okay sooner or later.
Okay. And that's how you made it out of that challenging time? You just trust?
Yeah,
Was that like faith or trust?
I think already by when that had happened, I had already meditated quite a lot, and I could get my, because I used to have anxiety, a lot of anxiety, and through training myself through breath work, I could completely like shut down all anxiety. So when I went into this Kundalini awakening, it was so intense, and I started like breathing heavily, and I was like, no, just breathe, just do your breathing and everything will be fine. So I think because I had the knowledge of how to breathe and how to soothe myself into alignment, I didn't go crazy. But if I didn't have the knowledge of how to calm my nervous system and how to align myself, I would have been locked in,
Right.
most definitely. But I
Right.
had that discernment of calming myself and being like, okay, just breathe and everything will be okay.
Okay. Beautiful. The breath, one of my good friends, he always tells me, he says Natalie, he says the breath is a key and the door it opens is peace.
Hmm.
You know, the breath is a key. So when you mention anxiety, because so many people, they talk about battling anxiety and be at war with anxiety and just being such an anxious person. I'm just anxious all the time and I just have this anxiety. I'm anxiety prone. I'm an anxiety prone individual. It's always been this way. When you said when you tapped into your breath and you said you just shut down all anxiety, by your definition, what is anxiety?
I think it's unprocessed trauma, that unprocessed emotion that comes from trauma. But if we actually process those emotions that are linked to those traumatic things, the anxiety will go away. The anxiety is there like a water in the glass, and then as soon as it comes a bit too much of something, it will boil out, you know. And because we have all those traumas that have not been processed, so the smallest trigger makes you go into the biggest anxiety fit ever, because there is so much undissolved emotions and traumas there. But if you actually start dissolving the traumas and the stuck emotion, sooner or later the anxiety will not come. The trigger will be less and less. It's about taking away the triggers.
Okay. Removing the triggers.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's like you have to be bigger than your triggers. You take them
Yeah.
away. You take
Yeah.
them away. You're removing them. And so like when somebody says, for example, you can correct me if this is a wrong analogy, but somebody says, hey, somebody's always pushing my buttons. And the other person is like, well, just remove the buttons.
Mm.
Like remove the buttons and then they can't push your buttons. There's no buttons to push. Is it
Mm.
like
Exactly.
that?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Like,
Okay. So,
I used to
mhm.
be very reactive, like very reactive. Like I had like a really bad anger issues, like really, really bad. I could go from zero to prison like really, really quick. And that also, through my breath, I have just like calmed myself from exploding into different situations. And I've done this like solely with breath, like breathing exercises. Also, when I went off drugs, I did that with breathing exercises as well. Because if you are connected to your breath at all times, you're living in the present moment. It's forcing you to be in the present moment. So if you manage to stay 90 days connected to your breathing at every moment, after those 90 days, you have completely reprogrammed your nervous system. It is very hard to stay 90 days in complete awareness, but you can do it if you concentrate on your breath, because as soon as you're concentrating on your breath, you are forced to be in the present moment. And in 90 days, you can actually like rewire your nervous system.
Yes. Oh man, this is the truth. This is the truth. Oh my God. Like, you know, when the truth just hits you, like we used to say in the church, we used to say somebody just cast the Holy Ghost or cast the Holy Spirit, you know?
Yeah.
Like it just hits you all of a sudden. It's like hallelujah, you know? It's like when you say something, this energy transmission that you speak, talking about, you know, just be here now, you know, this Ram Dass, be here now of the present. That is the gift in every moment. That all we have to do is unwrap it with our breath. Like we already have the gift in the present, in the moment. And, you know, I'm reminded of so many times when, you know, playing my shakuhachi, I play the shakuhachi bamboo flute, the Japanese bamboo flute. And it forces you, you're right, Natalie, it forces you, you're taking long, deep, elongated breaths, and it forces you to be in the present moment. There's nowhere else to go. There's nowhere else to be but right here now. And I remember so many times, I mean, you're just bringing me down memory lane that all I had to do was just 5 minutes, just 5 minutes of just playing my flute with those long breaths. And there was just so much overwhelming, the sensation of peace, like a euphoria. It was like no drug, no substance, nothing could compare to that level of sobriety, that feeling of just, oh my God, you know? And it was right there. It was in my breath. It was in my lungs. It was in the moment. And it just made me feel like, how did I forget this? Like,
Yeah.
how did I forget? It was so easy. It was so, I was worried about this and always worried about, like, I was always in the past of my, you know, regretting this, worrying about that. And then I was anxious about the future. What about this? What if this happens? And then if I, and it's like, wow, it was that easy. It was,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. What, I always wonder, like, what makes us forget that? You know, why we don't respect that? Yeah.
Because we have so many disturbances and so much distortion on a frequency level that are completely knocking us out at all times. You know, we have the 5G, just the electricity, you know, the Wi-Fi, all of this. So when we reach a state of bliss and then we have all these technology that are impacting us in such a detrimental way, and it takes away from our alignment, and then on top of that we have the programming that if you are not in a state of bliss at all times, your programming will come in and interfere, and then you have the fear and doubt. So it's so easy to forget because we have so many things that goes against us. Basically, our world that we live in is goes against our nature. It goes against the fabric of the real reality, so to say.
No, for sure, for sure. And just to one more time, just to be clear and reiterate, I want to make sure that I have this correctly. When you were saying earlier about, you know, all we have to do is focus on just sitting there in meditation, and that you don't even have to have, you know, the tools, the tricks, the techniques, the visualization, the breath work, the, you know, the pranayama, like all these things that we kind of look up on YouTube, these videos with these guided sessions of these people that are taking us on a journey. And you're saying you don't need any of that. All you need to do is just sit and be silent. Like that's all that is needed.
Yes, I would say maybe do an extra like frequency meditation, or do like a Steve Noble clearing of the body. Sometimes you can do that a few times a week, but I still think that the bigger percentage of your meditation should be just, stillness and sitting with yourself, because that's where your answers will come from. It's not when you will, do this activation and then you're going to do a chakra balancing. Those are really good. You should do them as well. But for the bigger part, it should be you finding stillness with yourself,
Right.
because
Right.
that's when the magic
The
starts.
magic, the magic. And when you're speaking of this magic in the meditation, that some people feel like it's mundane to just sit there. They see the mundanity, but you see the magic, you see the mysticism, you see the message
Mm.
that is above, what most people see. Is it the duration? Because I remember when you were talking about, you were sitting in meditation in a long continuation. Like there was a duration, like a period of you. I mean, sometimes you said you were sitting for hours, you know?
Mm.
So is it that people only get that power when they're sitting for hours? Like, is it like a muscle that they have to flex to sit for longer periods of time?
I would say yes. But in the beginning, you shouldn't focus on the time, because that will take away from your focus. Sit as much as you feel comfortable with sitting, and then sooner or later, you will unlock certain things. And, like when you open up your Akashic records, for example, it is like a TV. Like you have the biggest library and you have the possibility to see everything. Like you will not want to watch Netflix. You will not want to go out with your friends. Sooner or later, you will just want to sit in meditation, because there is so much going on. Like there is everything. In the beginning, it will seem like, oh, it's nothing here. I'm doing nothing. But then all of a sudden, everything will start speaking to you. And it's that threshold you have to come through for you to really want to sit in meditation. It shouldn't be like a chore to sit and meditate. It should be like a pleasure to sit and meditate.
This is it. This is it right here. You hear this? This. All right, all right. So like, so many light bulbs were going off. Like when you were talking about, we always have these streaming, channels and these streaming services like, Hulu and Disney Plus and like Peacock and HBO and Netflix and all these streaming services. But you're saying when you have the internal satisfaction, you won't even crave the distraction. Like you won't even be drawn to distraction when you already have the internal satisfaction within.
Mm,
So
mm,
when you have it and you build it within you, you're saying like the more you continue when you have it within you, it reminds me of like Vipassana. You know
mm,
Vipassana?
mm,
So
mm,
so in Vipassana, we sat that was the first time I ever sat down in a group of people. And for people who don't know, it's free, it's donated. All you have to do is get there. And there's Vipassana centers all over the world, and you don't have to pay them a dime. They don't ask for anything. Like everything is provided for.
mm,
And when I went there, it was just noble silence for 10 days in a row. There was no journaling, no writing, no communication, no cell phone. They took away our technology, and it was no talking, no misconduct, no associating. And it was just you, yourself, and me,
mm.
myself, and I sitting there for 10 hours a day for 10 days, hours a day for 10 days in a row. And you're just like, you're so on point, Natalie. When you say that, I realized at a certain point, okay, there's no escape. I can't escape myself. I'm not going anywhere. I'm here now. There's no escaping
Mm.
this. I went so far into myself. I started to like go to places. It was like my childhood started to come back to the surface. Like things that had been buried had come back to the surface that I didn't even know were there. I was like, where did
Mm.
this come from? And I started like reliving these moments. And then there was one time I even conjured up in my mind with no TV, no technology, no nothing. There was like I conjured up a couch and like a, you know, like a sofa and a couch and then a chair with a therapist in my
mm,
mind. And
mm,
she was asking me all the questions that I never dared to ask myself. And I was telling her all the things I never told anyone else. And it was healing. It was
mm.
healing, like in meditation. I was just sitting there and it was happening naturally. I just started talking internally and it was so healing. I was like, oh my God, you know? And so all the stuff on the outside, when they gave us our cell phones back at the very end, I was almost like hesitant, you know, like, like, do I want to go back, you know, to the virtual
Yeah,
reality? Like, do I want to go back to that world? Because we have a whole universe in here. There are worlds in here, you
exactly.
know, and we have
Mm,
no idea. Like, we can do anything. We can go anywhere at any time in the mind.
mm.
It was amazing. Is this kind of part of what you're talking about, or is there an even higher than that?
Yeah, of course. Exactly what you're speaking about. We have all, like, we have an inner therapist, we have an inner guru. This is why we don't actually need to find a therapist because like modern day therapy, nothing gets resolved in therapy ever. You know, it's just like an endless cycle. It's so you are your own therapist when you really go within, like you said, all of the memories, maybe traumas from your childhood, it will come up, it will get processed, you will speak about it, it will get liberate you. You know, that's the healing. That's how we need to heal ourselves, through remembering, going into the emotion, recognizing it and releasing it. It's like when we just keep on going in the same circle, which you do in therapy, nothing gets resolved, nothing gets released. And if you don't release your emotions, your traumas, you will not be able to illuminate yourself. You have to get rid of all the resentment and all the fear, and you have to find forgiveness, not just for others, but for yourself as well. Like, I forgive all things, I forgive all people, and I forgive myself is the most fundamental thing in reaching higher states of consciousness, is having a completely open heart with no resentment and full of forgiveness.
Yeah. That's a big piece. You know, that's a crucial component and a really big piece on forgiveness. Because what would you say for yourself, Natalie, when it came to that acceptance and also having that forgiveness? Was it more challenging for you to forgive someone else, or was it even more challenging for you to forgive yourself?
I think equally as hard. Um, I am very hard on myself in general, but in forgiving myself, I think it's harder for me to forgive others
Mm.
in a way. I do, yeah, yeah. Because like, yeah, it is. It is.
You had a thought.
It is. Yeah, I had a thought that
You had
no, that like it's all about forgiveness, because the reason there is very cruel and horrible people, it is because they have also been through something horrible and cruel. Someone was horrible and cruel to them. That's how a horrible and cruel person is created, you know? And I could have become a horrible and very cruel person if I would let my traumas dictate the way I live, but I chose forgiveness and I chose to step into the light instead of falling into the darkness, which I could have very well done. And I think, yeah, yeah, it should never be like a reason to hurt other people because of your own traumas, but that is unfortunately what we see in society. Why people hurt others is because they are so incredibly hurt themselves.
Mm. Yeah, that's a big thing that we hear a lot. You know, the hurt people. That
Mm,
it, there's always a cause to every effect. You know,
yeah.
there's always a season and a reason. You know, a reason why someone will go out of their way to hurt or harm another person is, you're saying, like somewhere down the line they have been hurt or harmed in some form or fashion. You know,
Mm,
yeah.
mm.
This is
It's
a
also
powerful.
when
Mhm.
we go through really violent crimes or really horrific crimes that energetically there's an opening in your energetic field when something very traumatic or horrible happens to you, and that is an opening for a dark entity to actually overtake your vessel. So
Whoa.
many people that go through horrible traumatic events and have a dissociation period, that is actually a opening where an entity can actually step into that body, because all of the entities, darker vibrational entities, they don't have a vessel. So they are just waiting for a vessel that they can jump into. And when someone commits a crime or commits very violent crimes, especially with a lot of blood, it's also open up gates and portals, and then the dark energies can feed.
This is so sinister. Oh my gosh. Just listening to this and just talking about these other realms, because we have also spoken, Natalie, about, like the succubus energy and incubus
Mm,
energy, like the realms in the astral that people don't realize are actually there, and the beings that can enter your dream in the astral world. And, I remember reading a lady's biography, and the biography, for people who want to read this, it was phenomenal. Just her perspective on her body. She called it a memoir of my body. The biography is called Hunger,
mm,
and the lady's name is Roxane Gay, and it's called Hunger, a memoir of my body. And she talks about how she became not just obese, not just morbidly obese, but she became what people label super morbidly obese. We're talking like upwards of 600 pounds. And
mm,
so she became that way through deep trauma. When she was 12, something happened to her, and it was from someone that she trusted, like a
mm,
boy. She really gave a lot of trust to this boy that was in her school. And this was one of the cool kids, one of the jocks, or one of the guys that was really popular, and he treated her bad. He really kind of didn't really treat her nice, but he looked good, he was handsome, so she just kind of accepted it and just kind of forgave him for treating her that way. And they would ride bikes with each other. And one day they went to the woods, and they were deep in the forest, and he took her to this cabin in the woods. And she said, Natalie, she said when they got to the cabin, there were like four other boys that were already waiting in the cabin.
I think
And
I've heard this story
you've
actually.
heard
I
this?
think so. Yeah, it rings something in my mind.
So the boys were waiting in the cabin for them when they got there. He knew about it. She didn't know about it. And she was wondering what's going on. Like, why are these boys here standing around laughing? And he had actually told them a whole bunch of stories of her in very compromising positions. Like, he told them about stuff that she would do with him and all sorts of stories. And he was just teasing her and saying, like, oh, yeah, she did this and did that. And all the boys were just laughing. She just remembers their laughter. She remembers the smell. She remembers the scent. She remembers their bodies were big. These were big guys. And so when she understood in that moment that she needed to get out of there, like it was time to leave, it was too late. And they grabbed her, they held her down, and just all of them, did just horrendous, heinous
Mm,
acts, to her. And she said that her mind went somewhere else. She said
mm,
she left her body. Like she completely dissociated, and through that whole just ordeal, like she wasn't even conscious. She wasn't even there. She was somewhere else.
mm,
But after that happened, she was so broken after that happened that she never wanted to be taken advantage of again. And so she wanted to protect herself. And the only way she knew to protect herself was to make herself so big, to have a shell, to protect
mm,
herself from the eyes of other men. She didn't want eyes of other men to look at her in that way, to look at her in that way that, that pleasurable way. So she wanted to make herself look in such a way that they would be repulsed by her and
mm,
disgusted. So she just kept eating and eating and eating and eating and eating and eating and feeding and eating and eating, and just to the point where she just was so big that, you know, she couldn't control it. There was no controlling it, but it all stemmed from that trauma
mm,
back in the woods with those boys. And it was so bad that she never told anybody. She never told her family. She never told her loved ones. She never told the people that were closest to her.
mm,
She just wrote her biography, and that was her kind of like releasing that energy. Yeah.
mm. Yeah, no, everything gets stored. All of the trauma gets stored in different parts of our body. And then this is why many people are overweight, because they store trauma. And just like she wanted to, energetically, the body wants to protect itself. So it accumulates weights around those chakra points that hold these different stock emotions and traumas. This is why it's so crucial to work on your healing, not just on a physical level, but on an energetic level, because everything is memorized and stored within our human vessels. So we have to release all these energies. Like me personally, I had so much anger in me, so much, and anger goes straight to your liver. So I had quite a lot of liver problems, and my liver not like working as it should, because I had so much unprocessed anger within me. So, and later on, that could have led to liver cancer, you know. So many of the cancers that we see in people, it is unresolved trauma.
This is real. You know, this is real.
Mm,
And I'm sure that just as this is connecting dots for me, I know that it's connecting so many dots for other people that are listening right now, that, you know, we have issues and ailments and illness and dis-ease in our bodily vessel, in our temple, that, you
mm,
know, it's not always simple. You know, we're understanding that, you know, like they say, we store grief in the lungs. You said like we store anger in the liver, and we hear about fear in the kidneys and worry
mm,
in the spleen, like all these internal organs, and like what do they mean? And we're just storing these emotions, and the body always keeps the score.
mm.
Like if we don't dare to explore, we're keeping the score. So it's like we're compounding even more layers on top of those layers if we never like process, purge, like you said, and release. Yeah.
Mm. I saw someone here in the comments ask how we can actually heal that. If we consciously, you can put your hands on whatever organ that you want to heal, and you go into a memory of where you felt you received a lot of unprocessed anger, and you go into that scenario, you go into that emotion, and you feel the energy of that emotion, and you kind of start tracking it out. You like pulling it out, you physically like pulling it out energetically. And when you connect with your consciousness that you are actually doing something, you are doing it. So if you are focusing, I am removing all anger, all energies that doesn't serve my highest good, and you're consciously making that connection, you are actually removing energy from whatever organ you might be working on. So just by you consciously putting your hands on the organ and consciously removing the energies, you can do a lot of energetic releases in that way, and you will feel a lot lighter in your body after you have done a release like that. Also, what I love to do is to scream in a pillow, because through scream we can heal so much. Like if we look at the Native Americans, they used to dance and they used to do their screaming. There was so much liberation
Mhm.
through screaming, many spiritual practices through screaming,
Mhm.
that we have completely stepped away from. And when you scream, it looks like something, oh, she's mad, like what is she doing? But it's such a important force to use when you are healing, is to actually scream as much as possible. Important to scream from your diaphragm and not from your throat, because you will harm your throat that way. your vocal cords. So really scream from your diaphragm, from your stomach, instead of screaming up from your throat. But screaming is a great release of anger.
Yeah. This is so key. You know, thank you for bringing that piece as well, that element, because it gave me a vision of Kali, the goddess Kali. And,
Yeah.
you know, I've seen like these dances or these rituals or these ceremonies where I think there were people in India or somewhere in the world where there was a lady and she was dressed in this like tribal looking garb, and she was waving this scythe or something, a weapon in her hand, and she had her tongue like out. Her tongue was all the way out, and she was like screaming at the top of her lungs, like, you know, and it was the goddess Kali, like she was channeling that energy, but that was also a release, you know, like when do we, you know, when do we really have our tongues like all the way out, you know, like just screaming, just kind of that primal energy, that primal rage, or that sacred rage, or that energy. When do we unleash that energy?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. We never unleash, like it's everything is so, you know, square in today's society. It's so little dancing also through, if we move our body, we can release so much stagnant energy. But I mean, you look at people in the West, no one knows how to move, you know, there's no release whatsoever. Also the Kundalini, the more you're actually swaying your hips, the more you are moving your hips, the more you are actually helping your Kundalini to rise. This is why it's so important to move your hips, especially as a woman. There are also so much emotional trauma that gets stored in our hips. So it is really important to really shake your hips and to release all of that trauma. That will also help in your Kundalini awakening.
Yes, yes. And as you were speaking, Natalie, we have met Louis. Louis said, "Yes, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to go over this. I have been singing more and finding that at times it will release these energies, especially when deep chanting or singing." So he's thanking. Yeah, yeah, just that release through sound, through and like you said, also through bodily movement, we find more improvement when we're embracing that movement, you know, letting the hips and, you know, the psoas muscles and all sorts of things, you know, come undone, come unhinged, come unleashed, and just let go. Yeah, just completely surrender and just allow yourself to be taken, you know, allow yourself to awaken and be shaken in that way.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
stomping on the ground as well. It's also really releases a lot of energy that way as well. We can release a lot of anger that way as well. So yeah, we need to find back that animalistic within us to express ourselves more violently,
Mm.
to have less violence within us.
Wait. So on one hand, we do need the silence,
Yeah.
but on the other hand, you're saying we need a little violence. Is that what?
Yeah, I do like, I mean, we all have a dark and light side within us. It's all about balancing that. Like it's all about, you know, actually the Kundalini energy is the Ida and Pingala, and it's the masculine and feminine. It's the light and dark. It's Shakti and Shiva. So you know you have to have these polarities to be able to transform and to really unlock. So I think people need to embrace their violent side a bit more and not be so afraid of it. Like, of course, do not do any harm, but you know, like express yourself, you know, in your own domain,
Yeah.
but don't be afraid of, you know, going into that anger, screaming, you know, might don't need to punch a wall and hurt your hand, but you know, like bang on the ground, stomp on the ground, do all these like releases. It will really help.
Yeah. So the message, correct me if I'm wrong, so it sounds like what I'm hearing the message is express yourself so you don't suppress yourself.
Mm.
Like, so you don't
Mm.
depress yourself and stress yourself if you don't express yourself.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay.
We suppress so much. We are so scared of,
Right.
oh, what are people gonna think? What are people gonna think if I do this? It's always that, what are people gonna think? And in that, what are people gonna think, we suppress ourselves so much. And through that suppression, there's so much that wants to come out that needs to be processed. So it's really important to process those emotions, I feel.
Beautiful. Beautiful. My goodness, Natalie, this has been amazing. This has been amazing. This talk, I mean, we just gone way, like, we just keep going. It just keeps
We
flowing. It
didn't
keeps
even get
growing.
into the pineal gland. We were gonna like dive deep into the pineal.
We need, you know, we'll have to do it. We'll have to do a round three. We'll have to do,
I know, but we always have so much fun. So much
yes,
fun.
yes. Well, thank you. Thank you
Thank
everyone who
you.
joined, who listened in, and who tuned in here to Natalie's transmission today. And once again, if this is somebody's first time finding you, first time discovering you here, do you have a website that people should know about, or a place people can go to receive your offerings and your services?
My,
Yeah.
my website is still not up, but I'm just gonna put my Instagram is the best. DM me and I will do my best to answer you if you have any questions or anything like that. And if I have something new, it will be on my bio. So yeah.
Beautiful. So for people listening on audio on the podcast here, go to Natalie, Natalie. Official, and she is there. You'll find her there. Give her a follow, give her a look-see, and thank you. Thank you. This is
Yeah,
timeless.
thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you. And take care. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
You too, Jerome. Thank you so much. Ashe.
Ashe.